once more to the Narrow Road podcast, where curiosity meets conviction. So we explore deep questions about life and faith and try to find a solution. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you very much.
All right. Mafa.
Again, let's start from where we ended off.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
We ended off in the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
And I think where we particularly ended off the last time was essentially speaking about the judgments that, came.
Yeah.
And I think possibly it might be the case that we'll see the manifestation of those judgments later on as we are, working our way through the stories that we've got in the Bible. And I think it's good that we're using the Bible for all these, for checking the historicity of the Bible, because I think it's the most complete volume of work that gives us at least a guideline in terms of, okay, here's the next story, and then we'll look at, okay, what are the other, theories saying about this particular story and all of that. And obviously, from what happened in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve getting kicked out, we know that Adam went to have sons, right?
Yes.
He had Abel and he had Cain. And we know that Cain, killed Abel.
Yes.
And then from there, Adam had Seth, and then later on, he had, there were many other people born from that particular lineage of Seth, up until you get to Noah.
Yeah.
But what is interesting, I think, that comes out is that, Cain killed Abel, and then there was Seth. But I was actually on YouTube the other time, and I actually saw something interesting. And maybe the audience, you can search this for yourself.
Yeah.
But when you read the meaning of the names between the lineage of Adam up until Noah, it basically just gives the whole of, the Jesus message, that man was. Can I just read you?
Yeah, please.
The story? I won't go into the different names and all of that, but I'll just tell you generally what the story says. I think I've got it somewhere here.
Okay.
So it says something along the line. Okay, so Adam, obviously, like we said the last time, means man. Seth means appointed. Enosh means mortal. Kenan means sorrow, and so forth, up until you reach Lamech, who's the father of Noah, which means the despairing. In fact, let me start with Methuselah, right? Methuselah was the grandfather of Noah, right? His name means his death shall bring, right? Lamech means the despairing, and Noah means rest and comfort. So if you read these names according to their meanings, it would read something like men appointed, mortal, sorrow, the blessed God shall come down, teaching, and his death shall bring the despairing rest and comfort.
Sure.
So you hear that's like the whole. I read that and I'm like, yo.
And how there should be something behind the parents naming the kids these names. There has to be something divine, really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I also heard like this Jewish thought, I think, that says that when Methuselah died, which means his name means his death shall bring.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's when the flood happened.
Oh, right.
So I hear. So I hear. Yeah. But I just think all of this is just like very interesting.
It is very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
And after that we see population starts growing, expanding rapidly.
Yeah.
People start filling up the earth and populating everywhere.
This is around the time of Noah.
This is around the time of Noah.
Sure.
And it gets to a place where maybe if we can take it from Genesis chapter 6, and says, it came to pass when men began to multiply in the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them.
Okay.
And something very interesting happens here. So from verse 2 it says, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they were fair, right? And they took them wives of all which they chose.
Okay.
So they saw them fair, they were beautiful.
Okay. Who's this? Who are the sons of God?
Exactly the question. So who are the sons of God? So now if we look at it from the perspective of the Book of Enoch.
Okay.
So the Book of Enoch says there were a group of angels in heaven.
Okay.
Their leader was
Samyaza, yes.
He was assisted by Azazel. There were other names that were mentioned.
Yeah.
But these two were the leaders.
Okay.
And they were other 200 of them.
Okay.
So this is what let me just read for you what he said. So this is what is that name again?
Samyaza.
Samyaza,
Yeah.
yes. This is Samyaza now talking to the other angels. They were playing.
So these are the sons of God.
These are the sons of
Okay.
God.
Mhm.
They are in heaven there.
As we said the other time, with the first episode, that the sons of God could be, these angelic beings. Yeah.
Yes, these are angelic beings or the creatures, right?
Yeah.
Heavenly creatures. And now they come together. This is what
Samyaza.
Samyaza.
Tough name, eh?
Yeah, my vendor tongue is refusing. Okay, so he says, "Come, let us choose us wives from among children of men and beget us children."
Mhm.
And Samyaza, who was their leader, said unto them, "I fear you will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay penalty for this great sin." So Samyaza knows already that it's a sin what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And he says, "I want us to agree because I won't have to pay the penalty alone.
Yeah.
We have to pay this penalty all together."
Mm.
Right? So they already know that this is wrong, right? So we are reading from Enoch chapter 3. Now we go to 4. It says, "They all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind themselves by the mutual precautions, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing." And the interpretation, therefore, precautions means a curse, an oath that involves a curse. So we are making an agreement by cursing ourselves. So we're making an oath that involves, we are cursed. If we don't do this, we are already cursing ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we are cursing ourselves, saying we are accepting the punishment, because Shamiyaza says there is a punishment that will come if we do this, right? So already
They did it in full knowledge.
in full knowledge that this is what is going to happen. So there, when we read in Genesis chapter 6, let me just go back again quickly.
Should I read it quickly?
Yeah, verse 2.
Verse 2.
Yes.
Okay, so verse 2 says that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, all whom they chose.
Yes, so you saw the Shamiyaza says, "Come, let us choose wives for ourselves
Yeah.
and have children with them." So when they continue now, they come together. It was 200 of them, right? They come down to Mount Hermon.
Yeah.
That is their landing. That's their airport.
Yeah. The airport of
Airport. So they land there.
Yeah.
And when they land there, that is when they decide, all right, let us choose the daughters of men whom we are going to have children with.
Okay.
Right? So when they have children with, then they start having, so these women, they had children, and these children, they become the giants.
Okay.
Because they're hybrid beings. It's a heavenly being and a human being. So these are hybrids. They are not real. We cannot say they are 100% human beings.
Yeah.
They are sort of hybrids, right? So then they become the giants. So I will not read everything here.
Okay.
But these, after they have done this, they start teaching. So they come up with the knowledge. Remember in episode 2, we spoke about this serpent that had knowledge about the tree of life and all that. That God really says, where does he get this knowledge? He's a heavenly being. So now these angels, fallen angels, they come and start teaching them. Let me just read one. The second in charge, Azazel. Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and breastplates and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids. Beautifying of the eyelids.
The Book of Enoch.
The Book of Enoch.
Okay, tell us more. All right, tell us more.
Yeah, beautifying of the eyelids and all kinds of costly stones. So I guess this might include your gold, your diamond stuff, right?
Yeah.
And all coloring tinctures. And these arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in their ways. So they became very corrupt. But now,
what about magic? I've heard also that
yes,
one of them also taught. Okay,
I just skipped the part here, but there is a part that where it mentions. Let me read Enoch chapter 3 verse 7. It says, and others together with them took them wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go into them and defile themselves with them, and they taught them charms and enchantments and cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants, and they became pregnant, and they bare great giants. Right, they bare great giants whose height was 3,000 ells. So I didn't go deep into understanding the translation of ells into foot or something. But that then goes down. So these giants, as I conclude, so these giants now, they were just eating anything. They got to a point where they were even starting to eat human beings, right? So that is the thing in Genesis chapter 6 verse 3. It says, the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120. The giants were on earth, so there was a lot of sin, bad things that were happening. They were drinking blood, so they were teaching human beings to drink blood. These giants. So it gets to a point when they were about to start, when they start eating each other. The children of God starts crying out to God.
So human beings, they start crying out to God.
What is happening?
We are being eaten by giants.
Yes. I think you can take it from there.
I'll just read something, but I'll just read something, like just read the end here, where it says, you just read, and then, my spirit shall not strive with men forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet the days shall be 120 years. Probably that's why, we don't live as old as, 1,000 years, like Noah and all of those guys.
That's right.
So from verse 4, it says, there were giants on the earth in those days, like you were reading from Enoch, and also afterwards, we must look into it. And then it says, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Right? Now, I think for me what is interesting, you are saying that these giants were eating humans.
Yes.
For me, because I love linguistics, right? In Setswana, we have something called lidim or dim, right? And our understanding generally of dim, we even have songs about this dim who used to eat little children.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
And this dimu, so the word in Setswana, and the viewers there will correct me, but the word in Setswana means a giant, and normally a giant that lives somewhere in the mountains there, and this giant comes and eats little children.
Yes.
So my question has always become, if we as, let's say, Tswana people, Venda people and all of these things, have got stories about mythical creatures, and it's not just us, we've got words for them in our culture.
Yes.
There's a word for the same mythical creature that we think never existed in English, in Greek, in, all these other languages, right? Why would we believe that, let's say, giants never existed? Because we've got, Dimole, I can't remember, who the mother told her, don't, when I go to work, when you must close the door because this Dimu, and then the Dimu ate honey and then started singing, and then when the Dimu started singing, the little girl thought that it was the mother and opened the door, and then the Dimu came inside and ate this.
Okay.
But, and maybe let's take it back to other cultures, right?
Yes.
Let's take the Greeks. So the Greeks, they've got, the Titans, and they've also got the gods. And their perspective of the Titans, the Titans are also some kind of, these... these things, like gods type of thing, and then these titans gave birth to the gods, Zeus, Athena, and all of those other guys.
Yes.
And these gods in Greek mythology, they actually also had, relations with human beings, and then they were born to them demigods.
Okay.
Right? Like your Hercules,
Yes.
your Achilles, and
Yes.
all of these guys.
And these are giants.
And funny enough, you read what we heard in here, that it says that about these particular, giants that, I think it's Nephilim. So the word that I think is translated giant is a word called Nephilim, which means, I think, the fallen ones, right?
Yes.
It says that these were, if you read the last part, it says these were called the mighty men of old. Some
Yes.
translations will say the heroes of old. Now, me as a person that likes history, the heroes of old that I know, give us Hercules. It's where Hercules,
Yeah.
and those ones. So, do you think there's a connection there that, there's a connection to these giants, the Zeuses of the world, and all these other things?
There is a very strong connection, and as well, I was reading something, and they were talking about the oral traditions, that whenever there is a certain epic or a legend about something, with each culture we would adopt that story, and they will tell it from their own perspective. So they'll create narratives that suit the perspective and their time at that moment, so that this story is understandable. So based on this and what we are seeing here about the story of the giant, we can see the commonalities. It might be a little bit different looking at their culture and how they were telling it, these oral traditions, and how it was passed down, but we can see that there is a central point here about the giants that were there, and we can certainly, I think here we can certainly say they were the giants. The giants did live.
They gave birth to these mighty men of old.
Yes.
Funny enough, also when we speak about other cultures, in ancient Mesopotamia, remember we were talking in the first episode around the Anunnaki,
Yes,
right?
Anunnaki, yes.
Who have got the chief god being this Anu guy. Anu means something like the sky god,
Yes.
the high god. And then Anu has got, kids, Enlil and Enki and all of those. And it says in their beliefs that how human beings were created was that the Anunnaki, and in fact, let me put it like this, how the human beings, and I think it was referring to the human kings of the time,
Yes.
I speak under correct, how they were created is that these Anunnaki mixed in their DNA with the DNA of human beings. Like they were like they refer to them as intelligent human beings that existed. So to make them more intelligent, they took the DNA of these Anunnaki and mixed it with the DNA of these sub-intelligent human beings to make them more intelligent, human beings, which are the human beings that we have today. That's the Anunnaki theory. But for me, when I listen to that, so it probably sounds like this thing of the making of giants, because normally I've seen a lot, more especially when you read these Mesopotamian stories, they have a lot of focus on the kings, right?
Yes.
And also what is interesting, maybe when we just speak about, the demigods and all of those things, bringing it back to kings from a Mesopotamian point of view, because their theory, I think, was around the only people that have an afterlife. Not everybody has an afterlife. The only people that have afterlives are the kings.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the kings, they also had, remember that thing we spoke about the last time? I think it's called theophoric names.
Yes,
named for the king.
Yes.
So,
that's right.
for example, like the pharaohs, let's take Ramesses, right?
Yes.
The word Ramesses actually comes from Ra and Mrs., which means, or Ra and Moshe. Ne? The S came in from Greek, translation of words. They like to put S's at the end of everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I get
But
you.
so the name would have been something like Ramoshe or something like that.
Yes.
Which actually just means son of Ra. Tutmose would have been son of Tot, right?
Yes.
You look at, for example, there's many
I
other
agree
examples.
with you. The philosopher Philo Alexandria, Philo was called Philo Judeos. To say he was from Judea. But yes, Philo Judeos.
The Greek say.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to be funny, we just throwing in a spin there, a moment to laugh, a lighter moment to it.
Yeah. So I've always like picked that up, and maybe just touching on a conversation that we had last time, right? We were talking about, you know, how there were times when, let's say, a prophet would be speaking to a king, but they would be speaking to that particular king as though that particular king was a representative of a heavenly creature.
Yes.
Can I just read you something?
Absolutely.
Ezekiel 28.
Yes.
And
Ezekiel
for the
28,
longest time, I had struggled with Ezekiel 28, you know, because church culture, or what we've come to accept, you know, through church culture, is the fact that Ezekiel 28 is actually speaking about Satan, the same way we have accepted Isaiah 14 as being, you know, about Satan. So it says, So it says, I just want to start at the right place. So it says, I'm going to read Ezekiel 28 from verse 11.
Okay.
Right? It says, moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus says the Lord God, you are the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, the sardius, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald with gold. The workmanship of your timbrels and your pipes was prepared for you on the day you were created. You are the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You are on the holy mountain of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of fiery stones. You were perfect in all your ways from the day you were created till iniquity was found in you. So I read Ezekiel 28 from verse 11 to 15. Now, we generally accept this to be about Satan, right? But when I read the opening part, it says, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre. It doesn't say take up a lamentation for Shatan or for Lucifer or for Hellel, Dinchaha.
Yes. You go again.
So this is always the thing that I found, you know, very tough to. I'm like, how do we take this to be about Satan, right? When it clearly says it's addressed to the king of Tyre. But then I came to find that this particular king of Tyre, his name was something along the lines of Ethobal, right?
Okay, I hear the word Baal, something.
Right, which I think is also something like the son of Baal or something like that,
okay.
Right? And you hear there are certain things here that you can't say this about a human being. You are the anointed cherub who covers. Cherubs are angelic creatures. A human being can't be a cherub, right? Up until iniquity was found in you. You know, there's other things. You were the seal of perfection. You were in Eden, the garden of God. When was the king of Tyre in Eden? You know, Eden was destroyed. We no longer knew where Eden was when Adam and Eve were kicked out.
And how was he in Eden?
How was the king of Tyre in Eden? You know? But what I came to find is the fact that, and I see it a lot with the Egyptian pharaohs. The Egyptian pharaohs, if you read history, they saw themselves as embodiments of, you know, the gods that they represented. Right? So if someone says, if let's say Ramesses calls himself Ramesses, in fact there are certain inscriptions where he refers to himself as, you know, Ra, you know, who later became Amun-Ra. But I think this makes so much more sense if you read it in the context of Daniel as well. You know, there's a particular verse in Daniel, I won't read it, but I'm sure the viewers can read it. I think it's somewhere between Daniel 7 and Daniel 10. But it essentially speaks about, so Daniel was praying, and he was not getting an answer for his prayer. And then eventually, the angel, Gabriel, came to him with a message. And the first thing Gabriel says is, the prince of Persia withheld me for 21 days. Right? Now, and then he says, up until your prince, Michael, came to help me out. And we know Michael is an angel,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Gabriel is also an angel. They're not human beings, these people. Well,
Yeah.
these creatures, they're not human beings.
Mm.
But when you think of the Prince of Persia, you're thinking about a human being,
Mm.
right? So what sort of made sense to me, and also taking into account like what I just mentioned around how Egyptian pharaohs, all these kings of those times, saw themselves as being embodiments of the heavenly, is what makes sense to me, I would say, is the fact that in that particular verse, the Prince of Persia, the principality, and I mean, Paul says something about it. He says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities,
Yes.
you know, against the dark rulers, you know, of this world, you know, and all of that, which almost signifies that the enemy that you see physically is not your real enemy. There's a spirit behind that enemy.
Yes,
So
that is
probably,
operating.
yes, so probably even with these kings, there was a spirit behind them. So for example, when Ezekiel was speaking to the king of Tyre, he wasn't directly addressing the king of Tyre.
Yes.
He was addressing the spirit inside the king of Tyre, who was his god with a small g, who was Baal, because he was also named for Baal, Ethobal. You know, the same as probably when Moses was speaking to Pharaoh, he probably just wasn't speaking to Pharaoh alone.
Just to get in there, so this spirit which was on this king was the spirit that was in the Garden of Eden.
I think that's the case
From
from,
what
what
he's
we're
saying,
reading.
from what
Yes.
we're reading,
Yeah,
yes,
which is
yes.
the same spirit of Satan. And I mean, Jesus himself refers to Baal as Satan, you
Yes.
know, as the adversary. So that for me is what makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. So now, as we continue here, we see from verse 5, it says, "And God saw the wickedness of men was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." Verse 6, "And God repented that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart." So what is this wickedness on Genesis 6 verse 5 that is talking about? Is that wickedness that I was referring to when the giant starts teaching people to drink blood, you know, to eat each other. So what happens now? God now starts coming with a plan that, all right, we have to eliminate them because this is not what I intended. Everything that they're thinking about is evil, because everything was just evil at that time. Eating human beings, killing. Actually, the Book of Enoch says they ate everything that was there, these giants, until they said, now we are out of food. They go after humans. They start eating humans. This is when humans start crying out to God to say, can you rescue us and stuff. And God repented, regretted, why did I make man, right? And these people that are operating here is those sons of God, right? The Book of Enoch actually goes on to speak about who are the sons of the children. Okay, let me not misquote myself, rather just go and get it quickly. All right, and here it was talking about okay, all right, so it says, "And now the giants who were produced from the spirits and flesh," right? So it refers to the sons of God, those that came from heaven. They are the spirits, right? And the flesh, right?
Yeah.
The flesh referring to the sons
Human
of
beings.
human beings, yes.
Yeah, sons of Adam.
Yes, shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and the earth shall be their dwelling. So, and now the giants produced what they produced became the evil spirits.
So that's where evil spirits come from.
Come from. They are the product of these sons of God and the human beings. They give birth to the giants. The giants becomes the spirits, right? And I believe those should be the principalities that Paul was addressing, that we are wrestling against, right?
Yeah.
You wrestle with a giant. You wouldn't wrestle with somebody of a lower, stature to you. It wouldn't be a wrestling. You wouldn't wrestle really. It's just a takeover. So as it continues, it says, "The evil spirits have proceeded from their bodies, because they are born from men and from the watchers." So these are also called the watchers, right? And the watchers, and in their beginning, primal origin, they shall be evil spirits on the earth, and the evil spirits shall they be called. The spirits of the giants will afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, battle, and work destruction on earth, and cause trouble.
Yeah.
Right? And they take no food, but nevertheless hunger and thirst to cause offenses. Yo.
That's why we're in so much trouble.
That's exactly. This is where everything comes from. So these giants, they produce the evil spirits, which they don't eat, they don't hunger, they don't thirst, or they only want to do destruction. And these were there. The Bible, as you read, it said that these were there before the flood, even after the flood. But before the flood, the physical giants were destroyed. But after the flood is their offspring, which are the evil spirits, which still live even today and now.
Because
Okay, let me just
sure.
add this part. So remember what the giants were teaching people. They were teaching them to do evil. They were teaching them to drink blood. They were teaching them to sacrifice human beings, to do all these things. And those giants were no longer there, but spirits are there, and that spirit still carry the same DNA of those.
The same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is why when that spirit comes, it still dictates the host, right? To do what the giants were doing, to cause destruction in any form. So those are those evil spirits that are still operating even now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mafa, I think this, yes, we know that, obviously the Book of Enoch is not, part of it's not considered canon.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I think it's still, a very...
Maybe just explain what canon means.
So essentially canon is what, canon is, it's got a different meaning, but essentially how we, take or we interpret the word canon is basically inspired text, scripture that we can take as inspired text from God, right?
Yes.
For Christians, right? So the Book of Enoch they actually call it part of the Apocrypha, which is extra reading, it gives you some context.
Like what you mentioned, the Book of Maccabees.
The Book of the Maccabees. It gives you historical context of the time, the thinking of the people around, the certain times and all of that.
That's right.
But generally as Christians, we don't necessarily take it as, divine inspired word, but it could be historical correct. It doesn't mean that it's incorrect, right? But if one overlays, obviously what we just, heard, in terms of the interpretation from the Book of Enoch, I think it answers a lot of questions.
It does.
Around where, evil spirits come from, because we know evil spirits do exist, unclean spirits, they're even there in the Bible. They're even referenced in the Bible. It explains where magic comes from and all of those things, It gives greater context in terms of these giants, because, the Bible is very thin. It just says that there were the Nephilim, or the giants, if you translate it into modern day translations or into English translations, they translated, because Nephilim is a Hebrew word, right? There were Nephilim on the earth in those days and even after, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men. But that's all we hear about it. We don't know anything, So I think if you read it in context with the elaboration from, because the Bible is not necessarily a historical book. It's basically God telling us, giving us stories to explain his nature, to explain, to give more context to himself. So some of the things he'll be more light on, because those are not important for us understanding who God is, But I think, the Book of Enoch at least provides some clarity on some of these things that, are a bit thin in the Bible. So what I could suggest maybe we could have as a next conversation, right?
Yeah, yes.
Sticking to the concept of, these spirit beings, these evil spirits, these gods, the sons of God and all of those things. And I heard you also mention Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh. I think you might have also mentioned the Epic of Gilgamesh, right? I think we can, maybe in our next conversation, because we had already discussed the flood, I think, in our previous conversation, we might touch on it, but maybe we can also just focus on what life was like after the flood. Right? Because we know that after the flood, after Noah came out of the flood, that people generally lived you know, around Babel, in Babylon, around Babel, they, you know, and then they built a tower.
Yes, and some of those, they were called ziggurat.
Yeah.
So
they
we'll
built
touch
a
on
ziggurat.
that.
Yeah,
Yes,
so I'm
yes,
like, hey, what is with these guys at Babel? I saw a funny meme on Instagram.
Yeah.
Some guy, you know, did a 3D sketch of the Tower of Babel,
Yeah.
and then people started commenting, "What have you done? You've destroyed us all!"
Yeah.
So I mean, it looks like God really hates towers, you know.
Yeah,
So maybe
exactly.
let's look into why God specifically hated
Yes.
this. Well, obviously God doesn't hate a tower. It's a joke, you know. We try to make this funny, you know. We try to make this funny, engaging, but
Yeah.
you know, we try to find out what did God have against this tower so
Yes,
badly.
exactly.
You know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
maybe we can discuss that in our next discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely dive into that. I think another part that is very interesting that maybe we can sort of expand on as we continue, maybe in the later episodes, the part of the evil spirits. I think you
Yes.
also touched on it. It's quite a very interesting subject.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we can also touch on that.
Yeah, you know, around also these things
Totally.
that are these things that are quite, you know, light in the Bible, you know, and I think we'll also touch on that because I've come across some interesting conspiracy theories, you know, around, you know, Nimrod and all this. Because even with Nimrod, it's very light, you know, so some people have went to try and, you know, fill in the
Yes.
gaps. Because all we know about this guy called Nimrod is that Nimrod was the first in the world to become, you know, to become like a king or something like that, or to establish cities and all of that, and his beginning was Uruk and Akkad
Yes.
and all of those things. And then we know that Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord. And we also just know about Nimrod, that Nimrod was the son of Cush, right? And Cush was the son of Ham. So I actually like to think that probably Nimrod was a black guy, was a black man, yeah.
I would really
Yeah,
like to
we'll
find
get
out
into
that.
it. We'll get into that.
into
I'll
that.
tell you my conspiracy theories
Yes.
around my thinking that Nimrod was a
Yes.
black man.
Okay, and we'll validate it through the scripture.
Through the scripture,
as we
yeah.
do.
As we do with the other conversations.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Where curiosity meets conviction. I believe you're convicted by what we shared here. And what can you say?
No, all I'd like to say is stay inquisitive and ask us questions in the message box. Leave your comments there, and we'll do our best to respond to them.
Yeah, on the lighter note, I love the part where these giants teach people to paint their eyelids. I'm not saying anything. Women, I'm not saying anything. But anyway, let's leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.